In this video we're going to look at searching ClinicalTrials.gov for trials that we can bring directly into the CRS and create study records for and create references to. We're going to start by doing an easy search, a single word search in ClinicalTrials.gov, and we can do that from directly within the CRS by choosing the Trials Registries tab and looking at the ClinicalTrials.gov interface. So here we're going to do a simple search and look at the results, and all we're going to do is to search for a single keyword, which is neuroblock, click search, and that goes off to clinicaltrials.gov, does the search and returns the search results back into the CRS in real time. What you get here is a listing of the number of records that were found. It says that we found 8. We're showing all 8. We're not hiding any and none are selected. And because we're getting records back from clinicaltrials.gov, there could be many thousands of them, we page the results in pages of 100. So we've got less than 100 in this case, so we've only got one page of 1. Underneath that summary you have the URL that you can click to go and view those records in clinicaltrials.gov. If you double click that link, it will take you straight to clinicaltrials.gov and you'll be able to see that list of records in the clinicaltrials.gov website interface. What we have under here are the listing of the records that we've got back from clinicaltrials.gov. If we want to view any of them, we can go directly to the clinicaltrials.gov site just by double clicking them. I'm going to double click this record. What that will do is open a browser on my site that takes me directly to the clinicaltrials.gov record. So I'm going to close that down because we want to be back in CRS. So let's look at the records that we've got. If we decide that one or more of these are records that we would want to create study records from within the CRS, all we do is to put a tick next to the record. Let's say we have this one and maybe that one. These are studies that we don't already have, and we know that we don't already have them because they don't have a mark next to them, and I'll show you that in a little while. We can go to create CRS records, which will take us to the actual content of these records. So we're saying that we're going to create these 2 study records within CRS. We've clicked on the first one. That gives us the details that we're going to read in from clinicaltrials.gov. We can click on the second one. That'll give us the details of that second record that we're getting from clinicaltrials.gov. And then we can choose what sort of records we want to create within the CRS. We can choose to create studies only, which you can choose to create references only, or we can choose to create both studies and references. And if you choose to create both studies and references, what will happen is the CRS will create, first of all, a study for each of these clinicaltrials.gov records that we're linking to. It'll then create a reference to each of these records, and it'll link the references and the studies together. So you'll already have a study in the CRS with its first reference, which will be the clinicaltrials.gov reference. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to click create both studies and references. It asks me if I'm sure I want to create new studies and references. Well, I am sure. So it goes away and does it, and it tells me that the records have been created. So let's close this down and see what we can see. The first thing we see is that this display has changed. It tells me that with a tick in this column we already have this study in our data set. And we know we do because we've just added it, but it's telling us if we found this search results again we wouldn't have to worry about that because it's already in our data set. What this one is telling us is that we've created the data, but there's an alert on it. And there's an alert on it because this study is in our data set and it's potentially out of date. The reason it can tell us that is because the CRS keeps track of the last change date of ClinicalTrials.gov records. It does that on the server, and it notifies you when a field within a record that's linked to a CRS, that's linked to a ClinicalTrials.gov record, and it's linked by the NCT number, has changed at ClinicalTrials.gov, but you haven't changed it on your data set. And there's a separate video that looks at how you can find those values and have them changed automatically or change them yourselves manually. If you want to do a more advanced search on ClinicalTrials.gov, then you can click the Advanced Search, and that gives you a few more options that you can put in that will be sent directly to the ClinicalTrials.gov interface. What you can also do is, if the search results are coming back consistently with records that are of no interest to you, so this one, for example, might be of no interest to you, you can, let's just remove the ticks from those, you can tick that record and say it's of no interest to me and put it in the Exclude list. And we do that just by clicking Exclude, and it asks, are you sure you want to mark all selected studies as excluded? Well, yes, we are sure, and it removes them from this list, so we don't see them in this list. And what it's done is put them into this list, which is the studies of no interest. And if we want to, we can go and look at the details of that study to make sure it's right. If we thought that it was a study that we wanted to appear in the list, we could tick it and restore it. Or we can just leave it in this list here, and that'll then flag this NCT number as being of no interest to us next time we do a search. What we can do now is to go back and look at our browse screen, and if we go to the browse screen and look at studies, scroll down to the bottom, we'll see that 2 new studies have been created within the CRS. We can go ahead and look at those, and we'll see first of all that this is the reference that we created at the same time as we created the study. We can double click it, and this study has been populated with all of the data that it's pulled from the ClinicalTrials.gov record. So that's created a study record within the CRS. That study record has a reference associated with it, and because we pulled it from ClinicalTrials.gov, we're able to flag at a future date if the content fields of this record change, so that you don't have to go back to ClinicalTrials.gov manually and check whether the record's changed or not.